As a reminder, if you are looking for, we've got a variety of topics. If you're looking for recordings on that, all you need to do is go to beef.okstate.edu, and we've got all of the recordings, including the last 2 weeks of this show, Cattle Fundamental series, and good discussions so far, I think. With that, for those of you all that are probably, you've joined us, so you know who I am, but just in case if you're new this week, I'm Rosslyn Biggs. I am a beef cattle extension specialist with Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service, and also a veterinarian with the College of Veterinary Medicine. So we're really happy to have you. Dr. Lawman, I'll let you say hello this week.
David Lawman, Extension Beef Cattle Specialist. I'm one of our state beef extension team here. And I just want to remind everybody that we are part of a statewide network with a county, an office in every county, and encourage you to reach out to those extension educators and area specialists for your needs. It covers a wide range. We're here to help.
Thanks, Dr. Lawman. We also have Rusty Gause. Rusty's with us. Rusty, if you want to say hello.
Yes, good to see everybody. And so Rusty Gause, I'm the Youth Livestock Extension Specialist here at Animal Science, and I get to have the privilege of really playing in this arena every day. So good to be here, and look forward to the discussion today.
We definitely appreciate Rusty, as well as Dr. Parker Henley, on their expertise and advice as we put this series together, and continued discussion. Dr. Henley, if I remember correctly, I think he's judging down at San Antonio today, and so we'll miss him this week, but I think he'll be back for our final in the series next week. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce a couple of our speakers today. We're going to try to keep this fairly conversational, and so if you have questions, as a reminder, you can put those in the Q&A or the chat, but it's really my privilege to introduce two people that I have a lot of respect for. Ben Janssen is with us today. He's president of Cimarron Trailers, and many of you all may be familiar with Cimarron Trailers. Cimarron is, of course, located in Chickasha, Oklahoma, a place that I'm quite fond of, and they have 130 employees. Actually in 2018, the company became 100% employee owned, really making it the only employee-owned custom aluminum trailer manufacturer, maybe in the world, I suppose. I used to drive by it at least twice a day, and I'll tell you, they do a great job. They've taken care of me. They build approximately 750 trailers a year, each one custom ordered and sold through a nationwide dealer network. Ben himself grew up in Indiana, showing horses and cattle, and was active in 4-H, FFA, as well as high school rodeo. He is a graduate of Kansas State University, and I promised our friends in Kansas that we did have more than one Kansas State grads. We have plenty of KSU representation on this series. He moved to Oklahoma in 2000 to pursue a career in the trailer manufacturing industry. He and his wife, Jody, who is just a fantastic person, they've been married 19 years, and they have two beautiful kids, Blake and Claire, that are actually cattle exhibitors themselves on the local, state, and national level. So Ben, we're really happy to have you today. Thanks for taking the time. Also on the call today, we have Dalton Newell. Dalton is a fourth-year veterinary student. I guess we're just a couple of months away from that DVM. We've got kind of a Grady County theme, I think, on this presentation, being as Dalton is originally from Minco, Oklahoma, and grew up on a preconditioning yard where his family managed cattle, sheep, and goats. He is avidly involved in 4-H and FFA, where he and his brothers exhibited all 4 major species. He judged livestock at Redlands Community College, and then later here at Oklahoma State. And he was named a 2-time All-American in 2011, and then again in 2013. He and his wife, Kaz, of course, you may remember, is Executive Vice President of the Oklahoma Youth Expo and was kind enough to join us on the first presentation for this series, reside here in Stillwater. For the past 8 years, he's volunteered as a logistical consultant for OYE, really loves exhibiting livestock, and his dedication to production agriculture and producer relations led him to veterinary school here at OSU, and he'll graduate, as I mentioned, here in May. So his major interests revolve around food animal medicine and plans to work right here in rural Oklahoma with eventual goals of a mobile consulting firm focusing on repro, herd health, and livestock procurement. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Give me just a second. I'll get that presentation pulled up. So as I mentioned before, we're going to keep this pretty conversational, and we definitely encourage those of you that are watching today to let us know what questions you may have. We've got a lot of discussion going on right now, as I think is appropriate as we prepare for biosecurity, particularly if you are showing swine right now. Got a lot of discussion related to biosecurity and the recent outbreak of PED in show swine. And so some of our principles, well, many of our principles, in fact, are going to apply across multiple species. So today we're going to talk about biosecurity, and the way we've broke this up is really, what do we need to do before we get to the show? What do we need once we're there? And what's our follow-up with that? And we're going to spend a little bit of time as we talk about this before aspect of it in the health requirements. So I like this picture, back to our Kansas friends. This is up in Hutch, and this particular arena with the big American flag. Really, the reasons we talked about in our first session of why we all love this segment of the livestock industry so much is really about our youth exhibitors. So it's critical because we understand the commitment from families and exhibitors that goes into getting to the show, but we need to be able to get to the show to begin with. And so if we have a disease outbreak, how do we deal with that? And then how do we, at just a most basic level, keep our animals healthy? So we want to talk about what is biosecurity. So Dalton, when we talk about what is biosecurity, when we hear that term, what comes to mind for you?
Well, for me, the definition of biosecurity is, elimination and prevention. But we can even simplify that a little more just in, trying to keep things nice around our place. When we showed, we tried to keep floors clean, feeders clean, buckets, water troughs, all of that. You'd be amazed what a clean environment can do for an animal. And I think biosecurity, starts there. And as we use those building blocks and just the basics of keeping an environment tidy, biosecurity becomes really easy as far as prevention and elimination of animal disease.
I totally agree. And, this is the definition we have in the OSU beef cattle manual. I just plucked that right out of there. But, what are the things we do from a management perspective to reduce or prevent disease from entering our herd or the population we're talking about? And, also, what are the measures we take to prevent the spread of disease? So as we talk about what should we be doing before the show, for those of you all that have heard me before, and it's not just in the show cattle arena, but I'm a big proponent of biosecurity plans. And people probably get tired of me talking about it, but I really truly feel that there is value focused on there and that they be written, and it's got to be a team commitment. It's got to be from the youngest exhibitor the smallest kid on the place, to those that have been there for years and those that work there. And this falls right into what you said, Dalton, as far as the husbandry aspect of it, and keeping a place well taken care of, because we're going to see benefits beyond disease spread, right? We're going to see cattle that produce for us, they grow for us, hair is better, all of those things that play into the big picture. So Ben, as we look at some of this, can you talk to us? I mean, we mentioned before in the introduction that your kids show, and your dad is also a veterinarian, as I recall. Ben and his wife were clients of mine when I was in practice in Chickasha right out of school, and gave me a lot of grace, probably more so than I deserved right out of school. But talk to us, Ben, about back at home, what things do you all do on a daily aspect before the show with respect to biosecurity?
Well, thank you, Dr. Biggs. And I think it all starts at home. I mean, we put so much time and energy into these animals and commitment to these projects that we want to have success, but also learn along the way. And it goes into those daily practices, from cleaning pens daily to having clean water available, cleaning out those water tanks, every couple of days if they're getting dirty, or daily. You can't just wait till show day to make this stuff happen. And the quality of your animals is going to show up on show day on everything you did before that. So keeping the barn clean, trailer clean, all your equipment, especially when you introduce a new calf into the barn, or a new project animal, not just putting them right in the herd, but maybe holding them in a different pen for a couple of days and let them slowly adjust. You don't have to have the newest place or the newest equipment, but it needs to be clean. That's something my dad taught me years ago. Just doesn't have to be the newest or the fanciest, but there's no excuse for it to be dirty.
Absolutely. It gets really back down to this husbandry aspect, and that we're really assessing on a daily basis. We talked about this last week with the nutrition aspect of it, of taking a look at those cattle and watching some of those subtle things that'll indicate to us that we may have something brewing. Also, I always encourage records as a veterinarian, and I know we've got some of our senior students out at the Vet Med Ranch that are online with us. So we appreciate them tuning in. Mostly, they're probably trying to heckle their classmate that I roped into presenting today, but looking at those records, and we have lots of questions. One of the things that we ask is, when has this calf been vaccinated? I think we'd be surprised at the number of show cattle that are not vaccinated in an appropriate manner. So where are the records? And when you're buying a calf, I think you need to be asking for that sort of thing, and preparing. Ben mentioned that new arrival isolation. I think it's important to recognize that we need to do the best job we can of keeping those animals isolated. I like a 2 to 3 week mark for isolation. Now, the practicality of that can become challenging, and I fully recognize that. But we need to be aware of what we call an incubation period, and people may be real comfortable with that, since here we sit at hopefully the end of a pandemic. But that time period, we got to wait to see is that animal going to break with something, and keeping separation of those animals that travel and come back and forth, and then looking for other sources of exposure, whether that be wildlife or other species or such. So you probably guessed it, you got a veterinarian on the line. Dalton is a soon-to-be veterinarian. The soon-to-be Dr. Newell, as far as having a relationship with your veterinarian is key. Talked already about vaccinations, talked already about records. That's where this animal ID, and we'll hit that a little bit closer, but we're also want to have a good relationship with them when it comes to movement and show testing. When we're looking at certificates of veterinary inspection, we know we've got to have those for most of our major shows, if not all of them. Certainly have to have them for OYE, which I think lots of folks are focused on at this point. So We're going to talk a little bit more specifically about these health requirements, and this may be where I call on Rusty and Dalton to kind of give us their insight when it comes to OYE as far as the problems that they may see for exhibitors. Really got two main types as a veterinarian of movement that we look at from a veterinary perspective. It's intrastate, so it's staying within the state borders, or it's going to move interstate, meaning it's going to go across state lines. And those are different requirements, particularly because, especially on our heifers, or if maybe you're an open exhibitor and you're moving bulls to a show. We've got special requirements at the federal level for breeding animals moving across state lines. So we also need to recognize that we can have show requirements that can be above and beyond what a state or federal requirement is. So Rusty, what are some of the things you think, I don't know, what are some of the hiccups you've seen at OYE when it comes to health requirements and getting through the gate?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is, two things kind of come to mind. It's when you are gathering all of your equipment and your cattle and your family, and you're loading up and you're ready to go, there's a certain amount of panic and anxiety that goes along with that. So when you arrive at that show, the last thing you want to see is a line. And those lines are probably far more to do with a vet check than it is with just a lot of people all the time, because there is a process we have to go through. So those vets can go through and check your paperwork to verify that everyone's doing what they need to be doing, so they can have a free, comfortable kind of existence while at the show. And so I think the first thing I would say is the hiccup, and I think Dalton would probably agree because he's had to man some of those lines before, that the attitude that sometimes we meet with certain people at those lines can be a little ugly. And just so maybe this is my chance to kind of plug the line that those are intended for everyone's benefit. And so the attitude that not only can you share as you go through those lines, but that you exhibit to the family that is in that truck with you speaks loudly. So just kind of a defense of those lines sometimes. With that said, I think Dalton in particular, who really works a lot of the logistics of the OYE, they've really navigated. Those lines are not very long, and they do a really good job getting people in and out. I think the hiccup that I see that I think causes us some trouble sometimes, a show like OYE is large enough where we have really waves that come through. We'll have all the heifers will come through and then they go home, then all the steers will come in and then they go home. And a lot of those from the same exhibitors. And so that biosecurity measure that we're really talking about can really apply just to you. As you go and commingle your own equipment, your own shoes, your own cattle with a whole bunch of other people, and then go back across the state, that's one issue. But just introducing those cattle back to your own place, and then loading up again, bringing steers back in, and so you really have kind of waves of biosecurity measures you have to take on your own. And I think sometimes in the rush and the speed of making those turnovers and a long drive and the competitive juices that are flowing, sometimes maybe we cut some corners and probably cause some of our own troubles. So I don't know, Dalton, you might agree or disagree with all of that, but I think that's one of the just basic issues that we probably deal with.
No, I completely agree. Like you said, the rush of things is what gets us in a biosecurity bind. In any instance, really, any wreck that we see from a federal or even a state or an individual farm, it's just one little misstep, and it's usually from some chaotic event that happened where we completely overlooked some of the minute details of biosecurity and keeping things in as closed of an environment as we can. And as far as show regulations, we just come out of the Cattlemen's Congress a month ago, and what Dr. Biggs is getting ready to talk about here as far as show requirements. The show requirements for the Cattlemen's Congress are different than they are for OYE. At the Cattlemen's Congress, we're bringing in just cattle, whereas OYE, we're bringing in 4 major species, and we're dealing with different communicable diseases. and potential outbreaks, if you will. But as far as what I have seen over the last 8 years, the two biggest things that hold up our staging lines and cause stock to stay on trailers longer than they should are one, showing up without a CVI and having to be put to the side. Trailers behind you still have to wait behind you until you get those. It creates more stress on your stock as they sit on the trailer longer. And then two, CVIs that aren't filled out correctly. And I think it's really important for us as exhibitors and as families to look at the health requirements of a show prior to having our veterinarian visit us, look at our stock, and then write us a health paper. It's not your veterinarian's job to go on every national show's website and find the health requirements. It'd be nice if you had that piece of paper there with highlighted requirements to say, okay, I need A, B, and C. You put those on your CVI along with your official identifications, and you get to roll in as smoothly and as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, so those comments are absolutely on target. And so, as a veterinarian, if you came to me with those documents right out of the premium book that are printed out what I need to know, it's going to save you time. It's frankly may save you money too. And you're ready, set, go. Lots of questions sometimes about what's official ID. We'll kind of speed through this. And if you're interested in more about that, you can certainly connect with me after the fact. But USDA official ID, generally speaking, is going to be these type of tags you see on here, and they've got this US seal. I like to keep it simple for myself. I know it's official ID. If I'm seeing this US shield on those tags, you got it in the ears, you're all set. So I've pointed out here lots of times where we see problems. That first set of pictures you saw, that's when we were out. We were checking cattle on January 1st in the snow, New Year's Day at the Cattlemen's Congress, and everybody was actually having a great time, and people were well prepared, and we didn't run into any issues that day. But when we look at a CVI, you really want to look at a few things. You got to make sure that inspection date, that's critical. The timing of these CVIs, making sure your veterinarian has signed that. We can sometimes, people get in a hurry, we can miss those things, and that's sure enough going to get you stopped at the gate. Also, you want to be aware of things like your testing. Are there certification statements that need to show up on there? And again, back to that ID piece. This is what you're looking for when you get through the gate. You've got that approved stamp, and you're ready to get into the show. So things at the show that can be concerning to us and causes, we're not entering a totally biosecure environment when we go to a show, right? We've got combined shipments. We may be putting shipments from multiple houses, multiple farms on the same trailer, and that poses a risk. We've got risk there really all the time. So in this discussion today, we're not having the expectation while we're at a show that this is going to be risk-free. But what are the measures that we can take to lessen the threat, so to speak? We want to talk about equipment. We want to keep equipment as separate as possible. Then we have common areas, whether that be the beds or the tie-outs or the wash racks. And we also want to think about smart practices of, are we wearing attire that has been exposed to sick animals? Have I taken care of the sick pen before I came to the show, but I didn't change clothes? We should be thinking about that. Additionally, you need to talk to your veterinarian about, what do I need to have in the show box to be prepared in the event something happens at the show? And do I have a backup plan, or does the show have on staff or at least on call an emergency veterinarian that you can get in touch with if things turn into a real kind of total wreck? So these are some pictures I've captured at various shows over the last couple of years, but we can see this. We got mixing of cattle from all over, whether that be at the show ring or whether that be in the beds. This is my favorite place for biosecurity. Probably one of them is the wash rack, right? So what do we all do? We take that heifer to the wash rack, And I'm kind of fond of white ones. I don't care if they're shorthorns or they're Charolais. I kind of like a white one. But what do? We tie right there, and every calf's nose touches this cinder block. And so we've got risk for transmitting respiratory disease over and over again. Also, when we look at the wash racks, how are those set up, and are they being taken care of on a regular basis? I'm sure everybody on the line today has probably been at a show where that wash rack is manure filled. So we need to be taking care of some of that ourselves, of policing that and cleaning that up and being courteous to our fellow exhibitors. So these are some of my favorites, and I'll let the others kind of comment on this. I'll start over here on the right. This is the common giant watering. It's a muck tub is what it is, right? That everybody leads their calf down, and all of those calves from whether that's one location or multiple locations is drinking out of the same pass and so that becomes an issue, right? That makes sense. Like we wouldn't pass our Dr. Pepper around and let everybody drink out of the same straw. It's the same principle on these. These are I'm not a fan of. By the way, I took all three of these pictures in the matter of about 5 minutes at a show. And so this is happening. This is on one aisle, right there. Okay. So the filling water buckets in the hydrants. Another one of my favorites is we've got a hose hooked to the hydrant, and what does everybody do? Because they're tired, they stick the hose in the bottom of the bucket, and then it gets stuck in the bottom of the bucket of the next one and the next one and the next one. So that can potentially be a way to transmit disease from calf to calf to calf. These are others ones that are concerning to me. We've got the set of water buckets that may or may not have manure on them, and we've set them directly in the feed pans on for these calves that we're asking them to eat out of. What other things, gentlemen, do you see at shows that are concern for you? Dalton, what do you think about common equipment? Let's maybe talk about that.
Yeah, so FFA chapters, 4-H chapters, people that stall together at shows. Remember, even though you can keep stuff at home as clean as you want to, we're eventually, if you have your crew that you show with, we're commingling products, we're commingling equipment. If we're using the water bucket, and your dad's carrying feed out of or mixing feed in your water bucket, and you ask, hey, can I borrow your water bucket? Well, is that water bucket clean? Where's it from? Was it sitting in manure like Dr. Biggs showed a while ago? Those are all good things to think about. And that's not saying that you shouldn't be courteous and help one another out. But, if you use a bucket, just, a simple rinse out, you wouldn't believe how many pathogens you can knock away just by rinsing a bucket out very quickly before you use it.
So I want to be conscious of everyone's time today, and I know Ben's got some pictures of cool trailers for us to take a look at, all the new stuff Cimarron's putting on the rigs. So I just want to point out a couple things in these pictures. This guy, I mean, he is a biosecurity superstar in my mind. Let me tell you why, right? He's got the dedicated bucket for this calf. He's got the disposable roll of paper towels tucked up under one arm, right? He's not using the same rag to wipe the rears off those calves of every single calf. And then it's also being used to wipe slobber off before the calf goes in the ring. And he's got the individual halter, same thing. Halters are right there. Respiratory pathogens can stick to those just like anything else. So be thinking about that separation as we go along. I don't want to miss ourselves. Okay. So You can read the sign on the right. I like it. It's a biosecurity sign. The only thing that concerns me to my Kansas friends is I want biosecurity to be a concern for everybody all the time, not just in the event of a foreign animal disease, as you read at the bottom. So these are good. These are good measures, and they really should be taken into consideration. I also want to think about, my family, when we go to shows, we try to be as economical as possible. We may have the box of snacks at the stalls. We may be cooking at the stalls, that kind of thing. You need to be thinking about, are there zoonotic pathogens that can be present from our animals that can be transmitted to us. I don't really like this on the table just from a basic health perspective, to be honest with you, because what I see is my daughter runs up to that with her dirty hands and she grabs the dirty apple that's been sitting in dust all day, and now she's eating it. So, Rusty, what are we thinking here? I know you got something we got to talk about this.
Yeah. So I get to have a role where I get to see a lot of the behind the scenes, up and down the alleys and the stalls, and the stories that we could tell you about the things we've seen. We actually have like a photo log where we just capture some of the amazing things we can't believe are actually happening back in the barns. Probably the most common is the crock pot. And it's not that a crock pot is a bad thing. And I think you're right, just economics and just even the fellowship of on show day, having food there. But you would not believe how many crock pots kind of start on day one and pretty much stay warm, cooking maybe even the original food through day 11, and not a lot of changeover or cleaning. And it's amazing, actually. What I see in that picture that you have that I don't see enough of is a little portable refrigerator. And boy, I would like to see a lot more little refrigerators in there than I do, just for some sanitation. And so, yeah, I think you're right that it's not just the stock that we should probably be really concerned with. It's also ourselves, and the biosecurity really applies to all. It wasn't that long ago that we had an E. coli scare at the Oklahoma Youth Expo. And really, we have no idea where it started, if it even had anything to do with the Oklahoma Youth Expo. It's just that's where it really surfaced as having an issue. And a lot of it just came down to sanitation and how we are handling our own selves, and whether our kids are playing in the dirt and licking their fingers and things like that. So yes, not just our cattle, swine, sheep, goats, but ourselves. And it's really an important step. I think one thing that I think we ought to really keep, and I think it's probably the best session to bring it up. As far as producing food and fiber, our livestock shows produce it's a drop in the bucket. It's less than 2% of all what we're putting into the food chain comes from show projects. But probably 85 to 90% of the general public use agriculture through a youth livestock show. So we carry this huge responsibility of what people see, and that's everything from how we portray ourselves with our animals, how clean we are taking care of things, to how we're feeding our own families. And when we have a disease outbreak, how we deal with that, not only to the general public, but even our commercial industries, it really matters to them. So yeah.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Appreciate that, Rusty. I mean, my crock pot doesn't sit at the stalls. We're fortunate. Cimarron Trailers has kept our living quarters trailers rolling for quite a while, and so it sits back at the trailer in the living quarters. But again, we have to be aware of these things. So when we talk about biosecurity after the show, and we'll buzz through this, but we need to be thinking about cleaning and disinfection. And if you learn nothing else today, this is what I want you to hear. When it goes to cleaning and disinfecting, you need to use water and soap first. Just get it clean, because you can pour most of our disinfectants on as much organic debris as you want, and pick your organic debris, shavings, manure, hay, you name it. It's going to inactivate that disinfectant almost instantaneously. So we got to get those surfaces clean. And after that, when we've removed all that organic matter, then we can apply our disinfectants, and they need to They need to have appropriate contact time. And again, I think this is an activity that's not to be left up to the youngest of our exhibitors. I really feel like it should be a supervised activity. Our disinfectants are not inert either, meaning we need to follow the labels and we need to follow the appropriate precautions. We also need to think about when we get back from the show, where are those animals going? I'm going to be honest, if you have you've got an older heifer and you're going to take her back and kick her out with the cows immediately after OYE, you need to think twice about that. Keep her isolated again for that 2 to 3 week mark until you turn her back out with the cows, particularly if those are cows with calves on them or if they're pregnant females. You just have risk there doing that. So take the appropriate measures. So we can't cover everything today. We want to be aware of the time, but these are some other resources that are good ones. I think your veterinarian is always a good resource for you on biosecurity. I talked about those biosecurity plans to begin with, and our extension educators. We have a number of them that are on the line with us today. They have a presence in all 77 counties of Oklahoma, and they are available to you. They'll help you with biosecurity on your animals. We have extension educators that are also experts in food safety. We've talked about that ourselves. What measures can we be taking? Other resources that are available are Beef Quality Assurance has some good biosecurity options, Secure Beef Supply as well, great checklist, signage, et cetera, if you're looking at those biosecurity plans. And then this Healthy Farms and Healthy Agriculture website has some good biosecurity information, and it's really at a level really all of our youth exhibitors can understand, and they've got some good options there to take a look at too. So we'll save these questions till the very end. I also should give, Ben, I'll let you bring up your presentation here in just a moment. I also have to give kudos to my family members that let me use their pictures in the presentations. Those are some of my favorite exhibitors, and so I appreciate that very much. So with that, Ben, I'll have you bring up our transport presentation and talk to us a little bit about trailers. And as my dad used to say, it doesn't have to be the fanciest trailer, it needs to be functional. But I also, that being said, I want to see all the ones with the bells and whistles and things that Cimarron's putting on them these days.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Biggs. And like I said, it doesn't have to be the newest or the fanciest, but there are features that will make it a lot more enjoyable experience, whether that's a new trailer or an older used trailer that you find or maybe still have. So we'll go through some of that today. I want to start with the basics and about getting that show on time. Again, you've put so much work and time and financial investment in that project. You've worked with it at home, but now you're ready to go to the show. So what's the next steps before you ever leave? What do you need to be ready for? So the basics that I look at and think of as a parent and trying to teach my kids too are, let's make sure the truck and trailer's road ready. Are the tires in good shape? Is the truck full of fuel? You don't want to have to stop 30 miles down the road and get fuel. We want to get to that show, as quickly and as with as few stops as possible to keep that livestock, the less time on the trailer, the less stress. So is the truck ready? Fill it up before you're ever leaving. Tires, I can't say enough about tires. Check the PSI. It's not just good enough to go kick the tires anymore. Tire gauge and check that tires on the truck and the trailer. Get those tires fixed long before you leave home. It's going to cost you a third of the less to fix it before the show than being stuck on the side of the road. Have some tools with you in case you do have a problem. Make sure you got a tire lug nut wrench and then a jack or a drive up ramp to be able to change a tire if you do have a problem. Kind of the rule of thumb I use, if I have the tools, hopefully I don't need them. If I don't have them, I've got a higher chance of needing something if I don't have the tools with me. But have some tools. Know how you're going to get to that show. It's different going to the county show than it is to OYE or Tulsa. If you're going cross country, if you're going across state lines, know how you're going to get there. Try to have in mind where you're going to plan your stops. Is there water available? try to pre-plan that route as much as possible. Is there some place I can lay over if it's a longer than a 1-day drive? If you're going from here to Phoenix, you need to lay over for a few hours to let your animals rest. And going back to the paperwork, I like to keep those health papers in the truck. It's easy to throw them in the trailer or the show box, or maybe we keep the heifer papers in the show box, but have all that in your pickup before you leave home. Don't have to get to the show, dig through the trailer to try to find that. So some simple things there to be ready for. Trailer preparations, again, before you're leaving, make sure that trailer's ventilated for the time of the year. Traveling a week ago would have been a lot different than July going to a junior nationals. A lot of the trailers we build and competitors build have multiple air openings, whether they're the top or down the side. A lot of trailers have roof vents. So do I want to pull air into this trailer, or am I trying to get air taken out of the trailer? Animals need that fresh air. I like to always have clean, fresh bedding in that trailer before you ever leave. Again, the longer trips, you want that comfortable environment. So make sure that stall area and the trailer's clean. You get home from the show, clean that out, power wash it out, again, from a biosecurity standpoint, and just creating that low stress environment for your animals. Carrying water with you. Again, if you're traveling multiple hours, it's a good thing to take some water from home if you can. A lot of the bigger truck stops, you can pull up and get a hydrant and find water, but that doesn't always happen. So if you're going to travel multiple hours, especially in the summer, you really ought to think about taking some water with you. And another thing to plan on is get your trailer brakes and bearings serviced once a year. That routine maintenance is going to be a lot less expensive over the years than having emergency repairs. If you don't take care of your bearings, your brakes, you can run a wheel off in a bad situation and then be stuck. Really, you want to take all these preparations so that you're not on the side of the interstate, with a flat tire or a wheel that came off the trailer. That doesn't happen near like what it used to in the trailer industry, but it still can if you don't take care of the equipment. So all those preparations will get you to the show on time. And showing cattle, it takes a lot of stuff. I've shown horses, I've rodeoed and show cattle, and it just amazes me how much stuff we have to take with us to go show a calf, but it is what it is. So with all that stuff, I really like to try to design trailers where everything's organized. It's not just piled in there. But as you can see, there's show box, there's a groom and chute, there's panels, shavings, depending on if you get to move in ahead of time with your tack or not, or if you're traveling across country and it's one trip. It takes a lot of stuff. So whether you've got a really big trailer or even a small trailer, the better you can organize that, the better you're going to be able to get there on time and move in. Try to have the stuff you're going to need first located the first thing you can get to in the trailer. Don't have the stuff you need first loaded where it's the last thing you can get to. So just some thinking ahead and planning. So start talking about show cattle features and what really makes a show cattle trailer convenient and handy to use compared to just a regular farm or ranch trailer. A couple of the biggest things are side ramps. That's so convenient to be able to load a calf up a side ramp into the compartment you want it to. And also your tack. We put a lot of side ramps on tack rooms of trailers where a lot of things we use are on wheels, whether it's a show box or a double blower or generators. There's so many things that we can load up that ramp. Those are the features that start making the trailers nice and convenient to use. When we look at designing things and thinking of our own family's use, maybe I don't get to go every time. Maybe it's my wife and kids that need to go and load equipment or unload. Maybe the grandparents take them sometime, but if you can build a trailer that has features that makes it easy and convenient to use, that again reduces stress on us, and which makes for a better experience too. Another feature that you're going to find on almost every show cattle trailer compared to this standard ranch trailer will be 8 foot wide. That's a 1,350 pound steer that my daughter showed last year. That's an 8 foot wide trailer where the fender wells, you see kind of that black area, that's the fender wells of the trailer. That calf is standing straight across the trailer. The 8 foot wide gives them more room to load and to unload, and those calves, even a big heavy bred heifer, can stand across the trailer compared to a standard width trailer is typically 6.5 to 6 foot 10 inches wide, and you have all your fenders or your tires on the outside of the trailer. An 8 foot wide body trailer gives you more room to haul livestock in there and those cattle can ride comfortably. So that's another really common feature in a show cattle type trailer. Convenience features, a lot of trailers going to have outside tie rails. You can see these calves are tied up in what we call a high tie position, where you could be getting ready if you're at a jackpot show. If you notice, there's also a lower tie rail, so that trailer could be your outside tie outs. If you're at Stillwater for OCA, for the shows in the summer and you've got to be tied outside, you can use your trailer as a tie out. So a lot of trailers we build are going to have a high and a low tie rail. A lot of people also want a front tack room. That's a great place to store equipment, keep your luggage up there, anything that you want to keep dry and secure. It helps to have that front tack room in a trailer. So a lot of them that we build will have those features. Sorry about that, it keeps jumping around. Another very common feature is a traveling or an adjustable gate, where that travel will float forward or backwards in the trailer, and you can lock that at various positions. The trailers that we build, the gates are on a rail that suspends from the ceiling, and so that gate can travel past a ramp if you need a really big compartment, or really anywhere in that trailer. This gate actually has a 48-inch wide opening where you can walk a calf through there, or some cattle, and it has we call it a no threshold gate, where there's nothing down at the bottom for that calf to have to step over. So obviously this trailer doesn't have shavings in it yet. This is a brand new trailer, but typically when you're going to bed that, you're going to have 3 to 6 inches of shavings in there, depending on how you like to bed your trailers. So without them having to step over anything, makes that a very safe feature. And I like the traveling gates from really the versatility that allows you. If you need to separate calves as they get different sizes, or if you need to separate if you're hauling a bull, maybe you got a show bull along with some heifers, you can change the compartment size of the trailer. Really a great feature that doesn't limit how you can use the trailer. One of the things that Cimarron does different on all of our trailers is that we use an insulated roof panel. This is kind of a top view of the trailer. You see that it's white on top. That panel is a 1/2 inch thick. It has an R3 thermal value to it. It's one of the first things that when we started with Kirk Stierwald about 12 years ago, working with him, that he noticed the difference immediately. We've used this ever since we started building trailers 20 years ago. Most of all of our competitors use an aluminum roof, and aluminum's a great product, but it lets heat transfer right through it. With an insulated product, it's really a thermal barrier. So on average, our trailer is going to stay about 20% cooler in the summer than an aluminum skin roof trailer. Some other companies have gone in and insulated between their roof bows and do a lining, and that's a great feature if you don't have a Cimarron to get your roof insulated. But a lot of these show cattle trailers are also shorter in height. People like that look. We don't need the height of a horse trailer. So that brings that roof closer to the animals. So having an insulated roof makes a big difference in the comfort of your animals. And when we try to design the whole trailer, and a lot of what we talk about is reducing the stress on the animals. Anytime we reduce stress on their travel, they're going to arrive, fresh to the show. They're not losing as much weight if you're traveling long distance. We all know what animals like when they get amped up or excited, but if we can keep that stress low on them, that's better for how they're going to perform and show. So that roof makes a big difference on our trailers. Next feature that we do quite a bit of is air ride axles. This is an option that a lot of our customers have really taken to it and enjoyed. Kirk too was one of the first ones in the show cattle to use the air rides. We have a lot of our customers that have upgraded to air ride axles on their new trailer orders. The air ride we use is built by Dexter Axle, who we buy all of our axles from, but it's air ride on torsion axles. Years ago in the trailer industry, the air rides, if you had a problem with them, you were stuck. You couldn't go. The advancement in the technology now is that it's an air ride on a torsion axle. So if something did happen, you can still move your trailer. You're not stuck. You still have torsion axles, but the air ride reduces the stress. We've done multiple tests with the engineering to see how much stress with different tools it's used. With Dexter's studies and our studies, it's about a 35% reduction in stress on the trailer. That air ride, you can watch in your mirrors, and that trailer will just float in your mirror. I know first time Kirk took a steer to Denver years ago on an air ride trailer, they always calculate how much weight that calf's going to lose in that 10-hour trip. and trying to get him. They got there and the calf was heavier than they wanted to because he wasn't as stressed because of that air ride. But a lot of our customers that have show cattle with the air ride trailers, they talk about how fresh those animals walk off there. They don't take as many days to recover. You don't have to get to the shows as early because they've gotten there on a comfortable trailer with the air ride. So kind of in review, to get you there on time, it's really the basics. The more planning you can do ahead of time, have that truck and trailer road ready. Again, it doesn't have to be the newest, it doesn't have to be the fanciest, but make sure it's safe, reliable. Whether it's you taking the kids and the cattle or your wife, you don't want to put somebody on the road in something that's not safe. You want a comfortable environment for the cattle, the airflow, clean environment that's going to reduce the stress. And then if you're looking for a cattle trailer or show cattle trailer, the things you really need to look at, in my opinion, are the side ramps. You want it convenient to use. You certainly want an 8-foot wide trailer body. Those traveling gates are going to give you a lot more versatility. And then think about the features you're going to want as far as the tack room or the storage space and how you want to organize that. And just a couple of things at Cimarron, again, that we do different. It's the insulated roof standard. We do sell a lot of air ride axles, and then we custom manufacture. We are employee owned here in Chickasha. We've really been blessed with a lot of great business here in Oklahoma and beyond. We've been involved in Tulsa for many years, in OIE, and we love this customer base. I'm passionate about it. I grew up in, again, a 4-H and FA and showing horses and cattle, and our kids are now, and judging, and just love this industry. And it's really fun to be able to be around the clientele that we have and be involved in the industry. And I appreciate being involved today.
Ben, I'll have you bring your share screen down. I think we're about ready for questions. While we wait on a few questions, gentlemen, why don't you give us kind of we've covered a lot of ground today, right? And so it's pretty high level. Give us kind of the major things we should be thinking about at this point. Let's say we're looking at OIE. We're just a few weeks out. People are looking at county next week, right? Hopefully you've already checked the trailer tires, and not that I know this, but it will ensue in a large family fight if your lights don't work. So maybe everybody rush right out after this webinar and go make sure the lights work, right? But with that, what are your take-home messages from our topics today? Rusty, I'll start with you.
I think big thing, just have a plan. And really part of the process and the learning process of all this with you and your family and those that are helping, whether that be an FFA advisor or extension educator or some other families helping, just sit down ahead of time and have a plan. And that everything from who's going to check the tires to what do we have to have from the vet, and just take the time ahead of it to really prepare yourselves well, and then remind yourselves of why you're doing what you're doing. And that ultimately this is a great opportunity for families to come together, win or lose, to learn what you can and spend that time well together. So just kind of keep those things in mind. I think once you get into the fire of the battle, once you're grounded in the things that you think matter most to you as a family, then the better you can weather those issues. But specifically to biosecurity, with what we've talked about, there's going to be potential cost. There's going to be some extra steps. But to again, remind yourself of why, and it'll be worth it. So for me, just have a plan and be ready.
All right, fantastic. We've got a question, and Ben, I'm gonna, maybe you and I'll take this one. Any advice on cleaning trailers according to biosecurity principles? Do you see areas, Ben, for instance, let's say a trailer comes in for a new feature, or we've got to fix something on it. We see particular areas that need to have some focus, maybe that has a tendency to get organic matter, for instance, maybe built up on it. What would your thoughts be on that?
Well, I think the more often you can clean things, the better. If somebody waits a year to clean out that trailer that's hauled cattle to the ranch and to the shows, that's going to be a tough job that nobody really wants to do. I was raised that we clean stuff every trip. I mean, you get home, you pick out the manure and you clean it. I like to go in and pressure wash the trailer. The pressure washer is one of the best things you can have around your facility to help keep things clean. If you've got access to a hot water to run through that, that's even better, I think, from a biosecurity standpoint. I agree with what you said earlier about let's get that trailer clean with soap and water first, and then come back in with a disinfectant that you can probably buy from your local veterinarian that would have that come back in and soap that with that disinfectant in it. As far as the trailer features, like on all of our stall areas, it's a sealed floor. That floor is fully welded at the top around the edges. If there's a tack room, that's going to be sealed away from that tack room because we don't want any matter going from the stall area to the tack room. I know some of the open type trailers or the ranch trailers are going to have a slotted floor where those guys just want to let it drain through. That's not what we do here. You're going to have to clean it out. So.
All right. Dalton, we got a question in the Q&A. We talked a little bit today about isolation for biosecurity. And so how do we define that? For example, like what does that isolation look like what's the minimum distance they need to be isolated from? What about shared equipment? What about, if it's like, you're like my house, the only people feeding our family, and that's got to be everything that's isolated and everything that's not. And so define that a little bit more for us.
In a perfect world, really as far away, if you're bringing cattle home, as far away from what didn't travel as you can. I know that logistically that's nearly impossible. It was impossible in the show barn that we had. Most recently, my youngest brother, we showed a lot of goats, and we'd put 8 or 10 wethers on feed and have a few buddy goats that stayed in their pens as well. We would feed all those wethers together and they would stay in a communal pen. Well, when we would take those to a show, we would try it when we brought them home. We would try to keep at least a pin's length away to prevent mucosal contact, whether nose, fecal oral, urine, things like that. So, as far as airborne pathogens and talking about that, if you have a place where those animals can get outside, that's very important rather than keeping them cooped up in a barn together. Like I said, in a perfect world, as far as you can. That's obviously dependent on your barn and your facilities.
Yeah, I think it has to be, we're trying to be practical here. I think absolutely in an ideal situation, we keep them on a totally separate location, right? And it's totally separate people that handle one group, totally separate equipment. I will tell you, I've done a lot of, in my professional career, I've done a lot of international exports of a lot of cattle, a lot of horses, some small ruminants as well. For those particular specs, it's a distance of 30 feet away from separate groups of isolated animals at all times. And so I think you also need to think about your individual groups and what are the risks involved with those groups. If I've got a set of pregnant cows, I don't want to dump that show heifer that just was amongst 1,000 other head at a cattle show. I don't want to dump her right in the middle of those cows. It's probably not the best thing for her as an individual, frankly, either, to take her immediately out of the show barn, especially if it's the last 2 weeks we've had or in the middle of the summer. But we need to acclimate them back in. So again, specifics. If I'm designing in an ideal world, it's a totally separate location, a totally separate everything. At a minimum, if I've got to have them on the same place, I'd like to see 30 feet distance between them, no nose to nose contact. And the more separation that you can provide, the better. And that includes, again, you want to feed those isolated animals last. You want to take care of everything that's in the excellent health status. Take care of them first. Take care of your isolated animals last. And you want to have, again, separate equipment if you can. If that's not possible, you need to get back to that cleaning and disinfection. So we are quickly approaching the 1:30 hour. We did have one other question in the chat about vaccines for show cattle specifically. Dalton, do you want to take that? I know that Dr. Weaver and Dr. Barker are going to talk a lot about that next week, but maybe if we've got some folks that aren't going to join us, we want to have those show cattle vaccinated. What would your minimum thoughts be on that?
The question says, is it different from the ranch? And if we're using preventative medicine and looking for herd immunity, I don't think it's that different. It needs a 5-way viral. A clostridial vaccine, I think, is always good. And with new vaccines on the market, a lot of them have a Mannheimia or a Pasteurella with them. And then something I think that we do overlook quite a bit is coccidia and deworming protocols. So I think that's something that we always need to take care of and throw in with our herd health and our show cattle.
I think those are good questions to ask, particularly as we get through OYE. We may be looking for new prospects as we get those older animals out of the barn and looking at next year's shows. And so also ask those questions of those that you're buying prospects from, and keeping in mind that for many of those prospects, depending upon how they've traveled, they may be technically we'll use the ranch terms, they may be really high risk cattle. And so treating them as such and monitoring them such is a good plan. And I think we're going to talk about that. Come back next week, because I'm confident that Dr. Weaver and Dr. Barker will talk about the particulars of that in detail. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today. I want to thank all of our attendees. I think we've had good discussion today. Lots of information shared. We're happy to, again, if you're looking for more information or contact, certainly visit beef.okstate.edu. And want to thank Ben and Cimarron Trailers for being with us. Dalton, thanks so much for all the expertise. We want to get through that show line, and we want to be prepared from a health aspect once we get there. So appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know they've got you rolling out there at the ranch, pretty hooked up there. So with that, Rusty, thanks for being with us again. And Dr. Lallman, have I missed anything before we sign off?
If you don't mind, please fill out the survey as you exit. It should pop up automatically. Those are completely anonymous. We do not keep track of who fills out what, but if you would mind, it'll help us a lot as we plan future programs. Thank you.
Yeah, we did have some problems last week with our survey. Hopefully this week I've got it plugged in there right for you. If not, I'll have the link. Dr. Lallman put that link from last week in the chat. And so take a moment if you don't mind. We want your feedback, and be watching your emails. In the event that survey doesn't work, we'll send you out a direct survey link. So with that, thanks again, everybody, and we will see you in just about 7 days for our last in this series.